Hello everyone, my name is Paweł Wolak and I'm a software engineer at Dropbox. One of the things that I'm interested in is accessibility. And I often feel like this topic is it's not treated with like serious priority. So I thought I will make yet another accessibility presentation, but this time I want to share some inside knowledge from Dropbox. How do we do it? So the agenda for today's presentation is like a quick introduction. What is accessibility? I want to emphasize why accessibility is important. I want to show you some ways of how to verify compliance. And at the end, I want to talk a bit about what do we do at Dropbox to create accessible products for our customers. Hopefully, it will inspire you to incorporate some of these ideas into your current projects. Or maybe it will encourage you to step forward and make a similar presentation about processes that work in your company. Because after all, the more we know about accessibility, the greater benefit for the whole society. So I think it's worth it. Let me start with a quote. The power of the web is in its universality. Access by everyone, regardless of disability, is an essential aspect. These are the words of Tim Berners-Lee. He was the inventor of World Wide Web. So basically, accessibility is a practice of developing content without barriers so that it can be accessed by as wide audience as possible. And we have all the tools that we need. I mean, you can see in this quote, web from the beginning was meant to be accessible. And back in the days, we were pretty good at it. I mean, if you think about the websites that we could see like 10 years ago, the internet connection wasn't very reliable. So almost every image had alternative text, some kind of description. So it was very accessible. And also forms, there were no custom checkboxes or radio buttons. So we exactly knew how to use them. Every time you use them, they just worked. And don't get me started on custom date pickers because I don't know, like out of 2 times, almost half of the times I try to use some kind of date picker, something is not working correctly. And also buttons. I mean, if something was looking like a button, we are certain it is a button, but now it can be some kind of div in disguise. But then we somehow lost it and focused more on how things looked instead of how well they worked and were accessible. So it's a common belief that accessibility only helps people with permanent disabilities, like being completely blind or deaf. And I want to emphasize that everyone can benefit from accessible websites. And I want to give you a few examples. So keyboard operability. I know a lot of people, myself included, that prefer to use just keyboard to operate a website. It is just more convenient. For example, if I am in a train or some space that I don't have a space to use a mouse or something. So if the website is not properly implemented, I mean the tab index is not correct, or there are some elements like just mentioned divs instead of buttons, I have a hard time using that website. Poor contrast. I consider myself having a pretty good eyesight, yet I often struggle to use websites with poor contrast in sunny days like today. And the last example, video subtitles, which are beneficial not only for people hard of hearing, but also those trying to learn new languages or using their devices in a noisy environments, like for example tram, or just watching something when people are speaking with heavy accent. So why accessibility is so important? First of all, it's the right thing to do. I mean, with the right tools and knowledge, we can make others' life easier at almost no additional cost. And by removing obstacles, we can enable them to do more things on their own and participate more fully in more aspects of life. Legal requirements. So I think I should start with some kind of disclaimer. I am not a lawyer, but depending on where your company operates, you may have to comply with certain regulations. For example, in US, there is Americans with Disabilities Web Accessibility Law and also Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act. And here in the European Union, we have European Accessibility Act, which is a directive that took effect in 2019. Basically, it was created so that we have one common law across the European Union, because before that, each member country could have its own accessibility law. And one of the important things that change is that now not only government sites, but also e-commerce and also just many of the businesses will have to comply with the regulations. I think it's there are like certain conditions. You have to have like 10 or more employees and earn a certain amount of money, but I mean, in general, many of the companies will have to start to comply with the regulations. We still have like 2 years before this sets in, but I mean, the earlier we start, then it's the better. And if we fail to do so, then your company may be sued. You will also have a certain stain on your reputation, and eventually you may be fined. Next thing is the cost of preventing versus fixing the issues. I mean, the image speaks for itself. The sooner we start, the easier it will be to fix the accessibility issues. So it is very important to start early. I mean, when we want to design something, it's a very good idea to start with making sure the design is accessible, because then it will be more costly to fix it after it's developed. And well, the bad scenario is that we get sued and we have to pay some fines. Also, it's important to say that accessibility could potentially lead to increased revenue, because there are a lot of people with disabilities around the world. These people also have their families and friends, and they want to buy some products just as we do. So by making sure that our websites and products are accessible, we enable them to use those products, and it's a good opportunity for us to increase our revenue. Okay, so how do we verify compliance? Web content accessibility guidelines are the most popular guidelines that we benchmark the accessibility against. Currently, there is like a 2.1 version of this guidelines. It's quite old. I think it's from 2018 or something. And there's ongoing work about creating version 3.0 and 2.2. But so far, we stick to 2.1. And we can, it's like a list of guidelines which are divided into certain categories. And to verify that, we have 2 ways of doing that, actually. We can either go for automated testing, which is easy to set up, but covers only a limited number of issues. But it's very good to go for the so-called low-hanging fruit. Why can't we do everything automatically? For example, image description. We can use some kind of SLint rule to verify that all the images have this attribute, but we have no way of verifying. I mean, not yet, because AI is progressing very quickly, so maybe in a newer future. We have no way of verifying that this description makes sense. And on the other hand, we have manual testing, which gives us more confidence, but takes a lot of time and knowledge to perform. And I have some examples of tools that we can use to that. In case of automated testing, we can use Axe or Lighthouse or testing library or SLint. And for manual testing, there is this one tool that I actually like and recommend, Accessibility Insights for Web. It basically takes you through the whole process, step by step, how to verify certain points. Okay, and now I want to talk a bit about accessibility at Dropbox. And I promised you that it will be a talk about enterprise scale. So I think I should do some introduction, because some of you may know Dropbox from years ago when it was just a file sync and share. But a lot has changed since then. We have now a lot of products spanning across multiple platforms. Not to mention that some of these products were acquired. So this makes having accessible products quite a challenge. So how do we do that? First of all, we have a public commitment. If you go to dropbox.com/accessibility, you can find the very contents of this slide. So probably some of you experienced this situation at least once in your career, that you had a great idea, wanted to improve something, and you hit a brick wall because there was no business justification or there were other priorities at the time. So having this commitment, having accessibility in our core values, it's very helpful to create accessible products, because it's like a solid argument in a discussion. Online training. At Dropbox, we have digital accessibility training, and it's really cool that it is tailored to specific roles. For example, if you are a person working in marketing, you get some training on how to create accessible documents, how to create accessible email templates. If you are an engineer, you get some training on how to create certain widgets that are accessible, like models, menus, or tabs. And we even have one training for managers, which is also nice. And all employees are strongly encouraged to complete the training that is relevant to their role. Continuous support from accessibility experts. So every month we have so-called office hours, which is 1 hour meeting with experts from outside of our company. So basically you can just join this meeting if you have any accessibility related questions, and they are there to help you. And it's very nice because if you have some issues, you don't know how to implement something, you can just join and they will immediately help you. And also we have a dedicated process for requesting a full accessibility audit. It's worth mentioning that it is not only related to web. You can also request iOS audit or Android audit. And it's also worth mentioning that it is possible at every step of the design. So you don't have to implement everything. You can go with just some kind of mocks, and you will get an accessibility audit on that. Accessible component library. So at Dropbox, we have DIG, which is Dropbox interface guidelines, and it is a system of React components and styles. So because these components are tested against accessibility guidelines, it is really easy to use them and have accessible products. It is not like only just the components, but they implement also a lot of interactions. For example, if you have model and you close this model, focus should return to opening element. It is handled for you, so you don't have to worry about it. Oh, and also, by the way, these interface guidelines are not only about components. We also have certain guidelines about making presentations. I mean, which colors go with which background. So I hope you can see everything and there's no problem. The next thing is testing library. I mentioned it in automatic testing. So I think most of you know this tool. It is a family of front-end testing utilities. And what we do, we have actually a ESLint rule that suggests that we should prefer accessing elements by their role. And why do we do that? Because, for example, if you want to find some button by the text, okay, if you use find by text, test will pass no matter if the element is actually a button. It might be a div with onClick attribute or something like that. So by using queries by role, we additionally test that the element have certain accessibility properties. Okay, so that's all for me. If you want to talk about accessibility and working at Dropbox, you can catch me later and ask some questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go have a chat.
Okay.
We have a bunch of questions, nothing about hedgehogs anymore, sorry. So let's start with something from the bottom, but I think you're going to like that question. Do you treat accessibility compliance as a business objective and priority, or keeping components accessible is part of the engineering culture, engineering craftsmanship in your organization?
It's hard to say for the whole organization, but in my team, we have accessibility compliance in our acceptance criteria. So every time we develop something, we want to test that it is accessibility tested. Okay,
that sounds like it covers both. Okay, so it looks like not a lot of people are following the best practices for accessibility among creators of UI frameworks. That's an opinion from the question. Do you agree with that opinion, and did you do anything as an organization to encourage a more accessible approach in the software that you use from the outside?
It's also hard to say because, well, we are a big organization, so I don't know about all the libraries that we use from open source. But I don't actually agree that there are like a lot of open source libraries that are not accessible, because there are great examples. Like I think Material UI is doing great job in terms of accessibility. Also Chakra UI. It's a very accessible product. So yeah, it's quite hard to answer this question.
Yeah, it's a very open-ended question, as the whole topic is. Let's get back to basics. Some people are asking where the acronym is coming from, A11Y. Let's explain that to everyone.
Okay, so it is basically in word accessibility, there are 11 letters between A and Y.
That's correct. Yeah. So that's just a shorter spelling. Okay, let's get serious. Do you have any process for verifying experience for screen reader users? Which ones do you test? How do you deal with differences between screen readers?
Yeah, this is actually a good question because most of developers use MacBooks, and on MacBook you are pretty limited to VoiceOver. So we do our best and we test with VoiceOver, but then the eventual inconsistencies there are pointed out in the audit performed by the outside company, because they have like more tools and resources. They can do the testing using different devices, and actually. It is a pretty good question because most of the users using screen readers are actually using JAWS, which is like Windows-based.
Yeah, Windows is also fairly popular among them, so it's important to cover the variety, right? Going back to AI, you mentioned that maybe AI will come and automate more sophisticated testing. Are you aware of anything that's already been attempted? Are there any tools based on AI that you can use?
I'm not aware. But yeah, as I mentioned, there are certain use cases that may be automated in the future. I mean, it works the other way. For now, for example, I think it's Facebook or Instagram. If you post a picture, they try to guess what's on the picture and they provide the description.
Okay, that's helpful. Do you think that would be easy to roll out in someone's application? Is that like a technology that's, I don't know, available, accessible to developers?
I mean, you mean the testing solution or
no, I mean the tools for generating captions for images. Like, can anyone just take an off-the-shelf thing and run it?
I think you can just now use the ChatGPT to like provide an image and get the description. So well, it's probably just a matter of like connecting with the ChatGPT API.
Okay, and I want to close with a more soft question. Do designers need to worry about accessibility, or is this a responsibility that lies on the developer team?
Yes, they do. I actually forgot to mention that for other roles, this accessibility training that we have is not mandatory, whereas designers are actually they need to take this test within like 3 months of their starting date in the company. So yeah, it is mandatory for designers to take the accessibility training and to create the accessible designs, because if the design is not accessible, we can't fix that as the developers.
Okay, and the last word to the audience, if someone's working at an organization that doesn't have the accessibility mindset rolled out yet, how do you convince the decision makers to start paying attention? Any recommendations?
Well, it's a really good question. One of the ideas is to invite some guests from outside the company. For example, in one of my previous company, we had the accessibility hackathon, and we invited a blind person to show us how he uses the app, and we are shocked. I mean, it's like a different level. When you use screen reader, you hear it like very slow, and people that are used to using screen readers, they have like set it on a very high speed, and we weren't aware of how many things the screen reader miss, and yeah, it gave us a lot of new perspective. So yeah, I encourage to like build the visibility by, for example, having some kind of accessibility hackathons. And for example, you can like ask some people from your team to like try to do something with their eyes closed, and let's see if they can do that.
Yeah, that's not easy on its own. And if you think like you're listening to podcasts on like double speed, you think that's fast. Screen reader users tend to listen to your website at 6 times and sometimes more because they want to navigate the page. So they need to get an overview of the page quickly.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That was very eye-opening.
Thank you.